In the heart of Brooklyn, where dreams are forged in the fire of adversity, there was a man named Jay-Z. Now, Jay-Z wasn't just some ordinary guy. He was a legend. He'd built his empire from the ground up, starting with hustling on those very streets to becoming one of the most powerful figures in music, spirits, and fashion. But here's the thing, despite all his success, there was still something missing. You see, Jay-Z had this vision, a dream that gnawed at him day and night. It wasn't about money or fame anymore, it was about owning a bank. Now, you might think, why would someone like Jay-Z want to own a bank? Well, let me tell you, it wasn't just about control. No, it went deeper than that. For years, Jay-Z had seen how the financial system worked, or rather, didn't work for people who look like him. Black entrepreneurs struggling to get loans, families being turned away when they tried to buy homes, entire communities ignored by the very institutions meant to serve them. That kind of systemic bias? It pissed Jay-Z off, and so he decided it was time to take matters into his own hands. He envisioned a world where financial inclusion wasn't a privilege, but a right, where everyone, regardless of their background, could walk into a bank and feel respected, valued, and heard. This wasn't just a business decision for Jay-Z, it was personal. It was about proving that the system didn't have to be rigged against certain people. If no one else would fix it, then he would do it himself. But buying a bank? That's not exactly easy, especially if your name is Jay-Z. Everyone knows who you are, and trust us, they wouldn't make it simple. So Jay-Z knew he had to play smart, really smart. And that's where things got interesting. Let's rewind a little. How exactly did Jay-Z pull off buying a bank without anyone knowing? It wasn't easy, but it was brilliant. You see, Jay-Z knew better than to walk into this situation blind. He understood the system, how it worked, and how it could work against him. If word got out that Jay-Z, one of the most famous black entrepreneurs in America, was trying to buy a bank, the price would skyrocket. Worse still, institutional resistance might have stopped the deal altogether. So he had to think strategically. Enter Matt Sullivan, Jay-Z's trusted business partner. Matt was a white investor with years of experience navigating corporate deals. To the outside world, he looked like just another wealthy businessman looking to make a smart investment. What no one knew was that Matt was working for Jay-Z, acting as the public face of the acquisition. Every document, every handshake, every negotiation, it all went through Matt. The target? Mainland Bank, a struggling institution in Austin, Texas. On paper, it seemed like a risky move, a failing bank in the heart of conservative territory, but Jay-Z saw potential. He knew that by acquiring Mainland Bank, he could transform it into something revolutionary, a beacon of financial inclusion for marginalized communities. The negotiations began quietly. Lawyers shuffled papers, numbers were crunched, and terms were agreed upon. At every step, Matt ensured that Jay-Z's name stayed out of sight. When questions arose about why someone would want to buy such a troubled bank, Matt played his part perfectly. "It's a great opportunity," he'd say, flashing a confident smile. "We're here to turn things around." Finally, after months of meticulous planning, the deal closed. With every legal document signed and every handshake exchanged, Mainland Bank officially belonged to to Matt on paper. But now came the hard part, revealing himself to the people inside the bank. And trust me, they weren't ready for what was coming next. The day Jay-Z walked into Mainland Bank wasn't just any ordinary visit, it was a test, a statement. And oh, did it make waves? Dressed casually in his signature hoodie, jeans, and sneakers, Jay-Z blended right in with the everyday clientele. But as soon as he stepped through those grand glass doors, the atmosphere shifted. Subtle cues gave him away: the stares, the way security tensed up, the whispers among employees. It wasn't overt, but it was there, an undercurrent of bias that whispered louder than words ever could. He approached the front desk, his demeanor calm and collected. "Hey, I need to see the manager," he said, leaning slightly forward. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with a practiced yet stiff smile, barely glanced up. Her tone was polite but dismissive. "And you are?" she asked, pen poised over a clipboard. "Sean Carter," he replied, smirking faintly. Her reaction or lack thereof spoke volumes. She blinked, unimpressed, clearly unaware of the man standing before her. "Do you have an account with us?" she pressed, her voice tinged with skepticism. Jay-Z's smirk widened. "You could say that." Before she could respond, the bank manager appeared, a middle-aged white man dressed in a crisp suit, his eyes already narrowed with suspicion. "Sir, can I help you?" His tone carried a sharp edge, one designed to intimidate rather than assist. "Yeah," Jay-Z said, slipping his hands into his pockets, exuding confidence despite the situation. "I actually just bought this bank. Figured I'd take a look around." The manager laughed head short, disbelieving chuckle that echoed through the lobby. "Sir, I think you're in the wrong place." His words dripped with condescension, dismissing Jay-Z outright. Jay-Z raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Nah, I'm exactly where I need to be." That's when the manager's face hardened, his patience snapping. "Security," he barked. "Please, escort this man out." As the guards grabbed Jay-Z by the arms, dragging him toward the door, the tension in the room skyrocketed. This wasn't just about kicking someone out. It was about maintaining power, control, and privilege at all costs. But little did they know their actions were about to backfire spectacularly. The silence in the bank was deafening. Matt Sullivan's voice cut through it like a knife, his words hanging heavy in the air. "You idiots just kicked out your boss." The room froze, every eye fixed on Jay-Z, who stood there with an almost amused look, as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment all along. The manager's face drained of color, his jaw slack with disbelief. The receptionist clapped her hand over her mouth, clearly mortified. Even the security guards, who moments ago had been dragging Jay-Z toward the door, now looked unsure of what to do. Matt stepped forward, gesturing dramatically toward Jay-Z. "Meet Sean Carter," he announced, his tone dripping with authority. "Also known as Jay-Z, also known as the man who owns this bank." For a second, no one moved. Then, slowly, the reality began to sink in. The manager stumbled backward, tripping over his own feet, while the receptionist whispered something under her breath, likely a prayer or a curse, depending on how you looked at it. The atmosphere shifted from hostility to sheer panic in the blink of an eye. Jay-Z adjusted his hoodie, brushing off imaginary dust from his shoulders. His expression remained calm, but there was a glint in his eyesaw, mix of satisfaction and determination. He locked gazes with the manager, whose face was now pale as paper. "Big mistake," Jay-Z said softly, each word deliberate and weighty. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about sending a message. A message that said, "You can't keep people like me out forever. And when we finally get in, we're not just here to play by your rules, we're here to change them." The next morning, the sun rose over Austin, Texas, casting a golden glow over Mainland Bank. But inside, the atmosphere was far from serene. Jay-Z had wasted no time implementing his plan. By dawn, termination letters were delivered to every high-level employee involved in the previous day's fiasco with the receptionist, the manager, the head of security, and anyone else who embodied the old discriminatory mindset. This wasn't just about firing people. It was about sending a clear message. Change starts here. The bank needed a fresh start, one rooted in equity, integrity, and accountability. And Jay-Z was determined to lead that transformation. As news of the firing spread, whispers turned into murmurs among the remaining staff. Some were nervous, unsure of what lay ahead. Others saw an opportunity, a chance to work for something bigger than themselves. Either way, they all knew this wasn't business as usual anymore. Jay-Z didn't stop at cleaning house. He rolled up his sleeves and got to work. First, he implemented policies designed to dismantle the very biases that had fueled the incident. Loans became more accessible to Black entrepreneurs. Interest rates dropped significantly for families seeking mortgages, and investments poured into underserved communities. These weren't just reforms, they were revolutionary steps toward leveling the playing field. But Jay-Z wasn't done yet. He wanted to ensure that these changes would last long after he left. So, he introduced training programs for employees, emphasizing cultural competence and empathy. He partnered with local organizations to provide mentorship opportunities for aspiring leaders within the community. Every move he made was deliberate, aimed at creating a ripple effect that would extend far beyond the walls of Mainland Bank. News of Jay-Z's takeover at Mainland Bank spread like wildfire, igniting conversations across the nation. Headlines blared with excitement and admiration. Jay-Z's bank becomes the fastest growing Black-owned financial institution in America. It wasn't just about numbers, it was about hope. For decades, marginalized communities had been shut out of opportunities by institutions that were supposed to serve them. Now, they finally had a champion, a man who understood their struggles and was using his power to dismantle those barriers. The impact rippled outward, inspiring others to take similar steps. Entrepreneurs from underrepresented backgrounds began exploring ways to create their own financial institutions or partner with existing ones to drive change. Community leaders organized workshops to educate people on how to leverage these new resources. Even traditional banks started reevaluating their practices, knowing they couldn't afford to ignore the growing demand for inclusivity. But perhaps the most profound effect was the shift in mindset. People who once felt invisible now saw themselves reflected in the leadership of one of the fastest growing banks in the country. They realized that systemic change wasn't just possible, it was happening right before their eyes. And it gave them courage. Courage to dream bigger, to fight harder, and to believe that their voices mattered. Sitting in his sleek, modern office overlooking the Austin skyline, Jay-Z leaned back in his chair, scrolling through the latest financial reports. The numbers were impressive. Mainland Bank was thriving under his leadership. Black-owned businesses were flourishing, home ownership rates were climbing, and entire communities that had been ignored by traditional banks were finally getting the support they deserved. But Jay-Z wasn't satisfied. This wasn't just about one bank. It was about creating a network system of financial institutions dedicated to empowering marginalized communities across the country. His vision extended far beyond Texas. He wanted to build something bigger, something lasting. Picking up his phone, Jay-Z dialed a familiar number. "Yo," he said when the call connected, his voice calm but purposeful. "Let's buy another one." On the other end, Matt Sullivan chuckled. "You're not done yet?" "Not even close," Jay-Z replied. "We've proven this works. Now we need to scale it." The two discussed potential targets banks in cities like Detroit, Chicago, and Atlanta, where systemic discrimination had left deep scars on local economies. Each acquisition would follow the same blueprint: acquire, reform, expand. By leveraging his influence and resources, Jay-Z aimed to create a chain of financial institutions that would redefine the banking landscape nationwide. As Jay-Z expanded his financial empire, the road wasn't always smooth. Resistance came from all corner-centric interests, regulatory hurdles, and even internal dissent tested his resolve. Some old-school bankers refused to adapt to the new policies, while others lobbied against him behind closed doors. Critics argued that his reforms were too radical, that they wouldn't last, or worse, that he was playing politics with people's livelihoods. But Jay-Z wasn't fazed. Drawing on decades of navigating complex industries, he approached each challenge with strategic precision. When regulators questioned his methods, he hired top-tier legal teams to ensure compliance. When opponents spread misinformation, he leaned into transparency, inviting journalists to tour the bank and witness its impact firsthand. And when internal resistance flared up, he addressed it head-on, fostering dialogue and offering mentorship to those willing to grow alongside him. His resilience was matched by his vision. Every obstacle became an opportunity to refine his approach, every setback a chance to prove the skeptics wrong. Through partnerships with community organizations, educational programs for employees, and innovative financial products tailored to underserved markets, Jay-Z continued to build momentum. His determination inspired not only his team, but also the communities he served, proving that change was possible even in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. As the months turned into years, Jay-Z's impact on mainland banking, the broader financial landscape, became undeniable. But his ambitions extended far beyond mere numbers or headlines. He was building a legacy, one rooted in values of equity, integrity, and empowerment. Training programs became a cornerstone of the bank's operations. Employees were encouraged to pursue continuing education, attend workshops on cultural competence, and participate in mentorship initiatives designed to elevate underrepresented voices within the organization. These efforts weren't just about compliance. They were about fostering an environment where everyone felt valued and heard. Community outreach took center stage as well. Jay-Z partnered with local schools to teach financial literacy, ensuring that the next generation would grow up equipped with the knowledge and tools needed to succeed. He launched scholarship funds for aspiring entrepreneurs from marginalized backgrounds, providing them with both funding and guidance to turn their dreams into reality. And yet, despite his growing influence, Jay-Z remained grounded. He understood that true change wasn't something you could achieve alone. It required collaboration, trust, and a willingness to listen. So, he made himself available, hosting town hall meetings, attending community events, and engaging directly with the people whose lives he aimed to improve. This wasn't just about creating opportunities. It was about inspiring hope. For every loan granted, every home purchased, every business launched, there was a story, a testament to the power of perseverance and the belief that no matter where you come from, you deserve a fair shot at success. As Jay-Z continued his mission, expanding his financial empire bank by bank, his story resonated deeply with people around the world. It wasn't just about wealth or power, it was about using influence for good, about dismantling systems of oppression and rebuilding them into something fairer, more inclusive. His journey from the streets of Brooklyn to owning multiple banks became a symbol of hope and resilience. Jay-Z's mantra was simple yet powerful. Never underestimate someone who has risen from nothing to build an empire. When such a person walks through the doors, they're not asking for permission, they're taking control. They're not seeking inclusion, they're creating it. And that's exactly what Jay-Z did. He didn't ask for a seat at the table, he bought the whole damn building. But this wasn't just Jay-Z's fight anymore. His actions served as a call to action for every individuals, organizations, communities to examine their roles in perpetuating or challenging systemic inequalities. Whether it was supporting local businesses, advocating for policy changes, or simply treating others with respect and empathy, each person had the power to make a difference. And so, the ripple effect grew stronger. From boardrooms to street corners, from classrooms to living rooms, people were inspired to act. Because if Jay-Z could rise from the projects of Brooklyn to reshape the financial landscape, then surely anyone could contribute to making the world a better place. And that's where our story ends. What did you think of this story? Share your emotions in the comments below. We'd love to know what you remember most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And if you are in the mood for another exciting story, check out our next video. It's waiting for you. Until then, stay curious, get inspired, and keep exploring the stories that make life extraordinary. See you in the next one.